The Tampa Bay Buccaneers began this NFL season with a 5-1 record. Quarterback Baker Mayfield not only looked like an MVP candidate, he looked like the frontrunner for that award. He was playing incredible, and going into their bye, they were 6-2. But here's where things get weird. You see, after that bye, they have gone 1-6, and recently they've lost to the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints. And now with a 7-8 record, the Panthers are on top of the division, and the Buccaneers, after looking like one of the best teams in the NFC in the entire NFL, they are now in jeopardy of not even making the playoffs. And the only question I have on my mind about this team is what happened to the Buccaneers? How do you go from being this dynamic, electric, explosive offense led by MVP frontrunner Baker Mayfield into a team that struggles to beat even the Saints and the Falcons in recent weeks? Now, first of all, I kind of want to highlight the game against the Panthers because this one, in my opinion, from last night was really, really telling of the way the season has gone for the Buccaneers and was really kind of it defined how their season has gone in the second half of it. For any Tampa fan, this game had to have been frustrating to watch because there were so many moments that felt like the Buccaneers really had a chance to put the nail in the coffin on the Panthers season, to go up to an 8-7 record and go on and be on their way to win the division. And yet they never quite executed in those moments. Those big time game deciding plays or drives with the ability to decide the game. And it was really on both sides you had this issue. Defensively, when it came to Bryce Young's both of his touchdowns, they both came kind of with what seemed like blown defensive coverages. You had receivers that were wide open, and that's what really did them in, especially going into halftime, where the Panthers late into that first half, they found a way to drive down the field and score a touchdown. That was huge for the Panthers. And then, even in spite of all of that, late into the game, the Buccaneers had a chance with one final possession, and they were doing well. Baker had a big time throw, as well as a big time run, and all of a sudden, Tampa was in very good position to, at minimum, tie this game. But what happens instead? He throws an interception. It looked like a little bit of a miscommunication between him and Mike Evans, in which Evans went to the inside while Baker threw it outside, and it was a turnover, and that ultimately decided the game for Carolina. There were so many moments in this game where the Buccaneers just had a chance. If they could get a defensive stop, if they could get something going late in the game on offense, so many opportunities where they could have won that game. And yet they just couldn't quite do it. And now their playoff hopes are severely in jeopardy, and the Carolina Panthers may be on their way to making it over a team that was at one point in this season 5-1. So if that game kind of highlighted some of the flaws of this team, the fact that they just could not execute when they needed to most, what are the core problems causing this for the Buccaneers? And there's two that I want to bring up here. The first one is injuries. They have dealt with injuries throughout the year, from Mike Evans to the young rookie Egbuka to Chris Godwin to their O-line, even defensively. They have had a severely bad stroke of injury luck. And football is truly the ultimate team game. Over in the NBA, I love basketball more than anything. However, you can often have a heliocentric offense, and what that means is it kind of runs through one superstar. So if you deal with injuries to the supporting cast, it can hurt your team. But ultimately, if you have a guy like Luka Doncic, or Giannis, or Anthony Edwards, or SGA, or Nikola Jokic, they're going to find a way to win regardless. And it might be a little bit harder. Your record might not look as good, but at the end of the day, you can kind of ride that star. But in the NFL, you need a lot of things to go in your favor when it comes to injury luck. You have 11 guys on the field on any given possession, and they all need to work cohesively, and that becomes all the harder when you're dealing with injuries. You have the O linemen who have to deliver the ball to the quarterback and then protect the quarterback. You have the running back who the quarterback may either give the ball to or decide to pass. And then you have the receivers who have to be on the same page as the QB. And for the Buccaneers, the fact that you've dealt with so many injuries, and I'd even mentioned the Bucky Irving one from week 3 onward. The fact you've dealt with so many injuries, it has not really given you much time to develop that rhythm. Simply because you just have guys in and out. You've had 3 linemen on IR this year. You have had a rotating door in terms of your protection. And that's not a good sign. The O linemen are really one of the most important parts of any given team, and they so often don't get credit. But when you win the battle of the trenches, you set the tone of the entire game because then you face less pressure on offense. You can kind of do as you please. In terms of the defense, just simply isn't getting to you. You have time to make your reads, make some throws. The running back has some open space to work with. And on defense, it's the opposite. You're disrupting the opposing side. So the battle of the trenches is so important. And when you have had 3 offensive linemen go on injured reserve throughout the year, you have had a rotating door at the line of scrimmage. And so now, all of a sudden, when you have to fill in those spots with guys either out of position or guys who are backups, your protection is not only subpar, but now you don't have that advantage in terms of the battle of the trenches, and the other team has a chance to set the tone if they can take advantage of you. So I really think, in the wake of all the injuries, that has been the biggest one for the Buccaneers. Has been their offensive line. You've had injuries on defense as well, and of course to the receiving room. But even then, Egbuka, he performed very well when Godwin or Mike Evans was out. Mike Evans is, of course, Mr. Consistent. And Godwin has been good when he's out there. And when he wasn't, they had Evans at times. And they had Egbuka. So that's okay. Bucky Irving, that's a big one. I thought he was going to have a really big year. But we never got to see that fully come to fruition for them. So injuries have been a big factor for the Buccaneers. But this brings me to my second point, and that is this. It is the job of a coach to maximize the talent of the roster. And oftentimes, if you're dealing with injuries, you're going to be faced with some unfortunate circumstances. But at the end of the day, it is your job, your profession, to make the most and do the most with what you have. And I don't know if their head coach, Todd Bowles, really raises the ceiling for this team. This is someone who is very much a defensive oriented coach. And you have seen that for the most part, the Buccaneers have had a solid defense for years now, dating all the way back to the Tom Brady days. But the thing that stands out to me with Todd Bowles is I don't always love his decision making. I don't love his play calling at times. And the biggest thing that stands out to me is there are moments where he can be very conservative. And there have been moments where that has cost the team games. Not just this season, but dating back to moments in the past. Decisions where the Buccaneers really need to get a touchdown here, and Bowles decides to either go for a field goal or not go for it on 4th down and punt the ball away. Just situations like that in which the Bucs really need to make something happen, and they just aren't given the opportunity to do so. And that's not to hate on Todd Bowles. I get what he does. I understand where he's coming from. As this defensive mind, he trusts his defense to get the job done. But with his conservative style of coaching on the offensive end, you can see in a game like this, where there were so many moments, like I said earlier, where they just needed to get something. So many moments where they could have put the nail in the coffin. If they had just executed, they could have been coming home the victors. But it didn't happen. And it's moments like that. Moments in games where they may decide the division. Moments in the season where you are on a slump, you are losing games, and needed to get something going. I don't know that Todd Bowles is the right fit for that. When things are going well, he can be a really good coach. I believe in Todd Bowles a lot for what he can do defensively, a lot for what he can do when you've got some momentum behind you. But in moments like this, where you are fighting for a playoff spot now, where you just lost to the Panthers in a game that could decide the division, I don't know if he quite fits what the team needs right now. especially when you look at the fact that this team, I think, is one that has the potential, and we saw this early on in the year, to have such a dynamic, fun, exciting offense. I don't know if Bowles is the right fit for this team. And so when you've been dealing with injuries now, 1-6 off of the bye week, especially, that's kind of telling. With that bye week, and the fact that this is supposed to be your get right week, the one in which you've got some rest, you can get your guys healthy again, and you can decide what you're gonna do this back half of the season. But instead, they've looked even worse. They have looked a lot worse coming out of the bye, and that's what I feel like has happened to the Buccaneers. It's not only been injuries, which has absolutely played a factor, but I also think it's been Todd Bowles. He's not a bad head coach, but for what this team needs right now, I don't know that he's the answer. Ever since that bye week, the Buccaneers have been sliding down with a 1-6 record. And to avoid this kind of collapse again, changes are going to need to be made in the offseason.